So welcome back to Teaching Jobs Korea, and today we have a special guest to share her experience about teaching in South Korea and then also her experience of opening up a hagwon. So today, please meet Vanessa, or Teacher Vanessa / Director Vanessa. So how are you today?
Hi, I'm doing great. My name is Vanessa Oh. I'm Canadian Korean and I've been living in Korea for 13 years now.
13 years. I guess what made you want to come out to Korea in the first place?
I was really young and I was working. Of course, I'm from Canada. There's nothing to do. I did wanted to explore Korea because I've never lived in Korea as an adult. So I wanted to come out here and then help students or help children.
Did you like interacting with kids back then?
I did, and I love kids.
And then when you came out here, I know that you started off as a teacher, right?
I did, yeah.
I think being a Kyopol too, right? I think for Kyopols, there's a lot more opportunity to excel in Korea than like a native teacher, like someone just like a foreigner.
For sure, for sure.
And I think the biggest reason for that is because you're bilingual. You have to be bilingual though, I think.
You do have to be bilingual, but a lot of Kyopos are really not bilingual.
But yes, being bilingual is helpful. But I think when you're not bilingual, you have to become bilingual to like kind of excel to a place beyond like just head teacher, I think.
Exactly. Especially if you want to work in like an admin or like HQ, you do have to speak both of the languages.
So when you first came, I guess how many like years of teaching did you do as a teacher then?
I've been teaching for about 10 years in total.
But what about in Korea?
10 years in Korea. I worked at hagwons and I did my private tutoring.
I remember when you sent your resume and I spoke to you, and then I remember you telling me that like you want to teach, but then you also wanted to understand like, you know, the HR part of it, right? The admin, because you had like plans to start up your own hagwon eventually, right?
Right.
And actually it's good to see that
And
you actually did, right?
And I did.
A lot of people say that, but then it's very hard to do, I think.
That's true.
I guess, was there a lot of things that you learned and adapted to your time in a hagwon? Did you get a good understanding of how to run a hagwon?
I did. It's not about how to run a hagwon. I learned how to run a hagwon after I opened my hagwon, but it was all about education. And I've always saw myself marrying a Korean guy and settling down in Korea. But at the same time, because I know with Korean education is very competitive, and that's not something that I wanted to give my children. So I thought about the curriculum that are effective to learn practical English as far as like reading, writing, and things like that. So that's when I was like designing my own curriculum in my head when I was a teacher, and then soon that came the reality.
Because I remember you started off at one hagwon, you stayed there for like a year, and then you moved to another hagwon, and then you actually moved up pretty high in that position.
I did become an academic coordinator, one of the managers. It was like 3 months after I got hired.
I think, how many years do you think you have to have like just experience teaching and understanding the kids, getting to know the parents, like having an understanding of Korean parents too, right? That you can finally say like, okay, I'm ready to like start this venture.
Maybe at least 5 to 6 years.
5 to 6 years?
5 to 6 years.
I agree with that too. And then just talking about your hagwon now, the name of the hagwon is?
The name of the hagwon is Cliff. A lot of people ask me why I named my hagwon Cliff. That's actually the name of my elementary school in Calgary. So when I first moved to Canada, I was in grade 2, and I had a great experience because it was so different from Korean school. So I wanted to remember my good experience in Canada and then pass down to the students in Korea.
So it's more of a personal reason.
Yes.
Because, you know, my PD asked me, it's like, Cliff, what does that mean? I said, well, it's like the edge of the mountain, right? So like, why would you name something like that? So
Yeah.
I figured, you know, you got to climb up to the cliff.
Right.
So that's like the final destination. So I gave him that reason, and they said like, oh, that's a good reason.
A lot of people ask me, they're like, oh, why is it Cliff? Are you going to push down the kids if they fail, or are they going to be successful and rise up to the sky? And I was like,
It's the latter.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But no, it's not. It's actually my childhood memory.
But it's kind of the same thing as the latter, right?
That's true.
Hagwons have morning to afternoon shift, you know, afternoon to evening shift, right? I guess what age group does your hagwon accommodate?
We start from kindergarten all the way to middle school. So a lot of kindergartners come in the afternoon after their kindergarten, and we focus on phonics for them.
What about like the elementary? Does it go up to middle school, or is it just elementary?
It does go up to middle school.
Okay, so you're teaching kinder, elementary, and then middle, right?
That's right. But for middle school students, we try not to take the new students in. So it's focusing on the students that we have right now.
What would be the primary focus of this hagwon for, I guess, just success for the kids?
We focus on presentation skills. So we focus on writing, reading, and speaking.
And then just starting a hagwon, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of money too. I don't think a lot of teachers understand like the risk that, you know, directors and owners have to take when they open up a hagwon, especially in a very competitive like environment, right? I guess when you decided to open it up, like I guess what were some of like the biggest challenges that you had to face when opening up a hagwon?
One of the biggest challenges that I had to face was dealing with all the legal documents and knowing your laws and all the process of hiring people and bringing people from the foreign, you know, from the US, Canada, and other countries.
And then also like trying to understand where to open up the hagwon is very important too, right? Because we're located in the city of Siheung, which is a very nice city. It's kind of like a newly developed area too.
It is, yes. There is an older generation, which is across the street, but in this area where Cliff is at, there's a lot of new apartments. If you're trying to open a hagwon, you do have to study about schools. You have to look at the number of students at certain school and if they are walkable from their school to the academy.
So I guess what made you choose the city of Siheung out of all the cities?
First of all, I live here. Again, the main focus about me opening my hagwon was to provide the great experience that I had in Canada to my kids. So I wanted to open a hagwon where it was close to my house.
Because I know that you started a family too. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Right. I know it's like 4 years old. But
yes.
I guess you just needed a place to be close to be able to still have a family and then also still be able to run your business, right?
Exactly.
I guess has your hagwon grown a lot since you started?
It has, because we started from zero.
What was the hardest thing to adjust to the first year? Because the first year is always the hardest, right? When you open up a hagwon.
It is. And especially in this area, a lot of moms believe in the system. Because we're not franchise brand, a lot of moms were very hesitant and, you know, very skeptical about things.
Before you like opened it up though, did you consider both options, like going the franchise route and then also just starting up like a smaller name?
I did because I did work in big franchise schools before I opened up my hagwon. But then I really had to think about the principle, my values, right? And my perspective when it comes to education. And I didn't want to give the pressure of, you know, just memorizing the vocabularies or pushing the lessons even though they're not following. I didn't want to have that. So I thought about my own curriculum where the students can actually learn very supportive and creative way.
And then also like franchise names too, using a franchise name is much more expensive to even opening it up.
It is for sure.
But then it is a very competitive market. I'm pretty sure you probably figured that out too a lot more harder than, I'm sure it's a lot more competitive than what you had thought when you first opened up.
It is, of course, because there are a lot of hagwons that are opened already and then trying to, I guess, settle in between them, right? It's very difficult.
Now also being in the position of a teacher for many years and now, you know, becoming like the employer, I guess how's the relationship with the teachers?
We're great. I'm sorry, I don't know how my teachers feel, but I think we have a great relationship. I try to help them out as much as I can, like a big sister. I don't want to have like the, you know, uncomfortable, I guess, feelings.
There's got to be some things that like before you became a wonjang, like you had these questions like, I don't know why they do it that way or they do it that way, and then you become a wonjang, then you understand, right? I'm sure there was many cases like that too.
Yes, there is. Yeah, for sure.
What is the best part about your job now?
The best part of my job is freedom. I'm not talking about my personal time, but freedom to shape the curriculum where I think it's going to work the best.
And what about some important advice for anyone that's thinking about starting a hagwon? Because there's many people that try to do it.
You really have to study the market. You have to know, number one thing, call around and then see the difficulties when it comes to like curriculum, what kind of books that they use. And you could kind of figure out if the area is competitive with education, if the moms are passionate about the students learning.
I think also it's just try to create a certain client base beforehand, right? Maybe you're doing private tutoring and you get to know like the moms, or you work at a hagwon, you get to know the moms in that area. I think that kind of helps out a lot more easier to kind of pick a location for a hagwon as well.
For sure. A lot of people do start like that. Even the Hagwons around here, they started as 공부방 and then they expand to Hagwon later. But I believed in myself from the first.
What about like living in Korea as a Kyopo? Because I think Kyopos and Koreans are different, right? I'm a Kyopo, you're a Kyopo, and I don't think a lot of foreigners understand that Kyopos are different, right? And also viewed differently by Koreans too, right?
Sure.
What were some of like the benefits and some of the challenges of living as a Kyopo in Korea?
Okay, so benefits and challenges, they both come from understanding the culture. The challenge, I'm going to talk about the challenges first, then I'll talk about the good side. But the first challenge is Korean people expect me to know or fully understand the culture, which I really don't. You know, there are things, you know, the Korean people do, and I'm like, okay, then why did I do that, you know? But again, that's kind of good excuse of me saying like, I can't do it because I don't know. So I guess it comes, you know, it could be like both good and bad.
That's true too, right? Because they kind of, like in Korean word, they'll kind of mushihe sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then knowing that you know the Korean culture too, you know that they're mushiheing you, right?
Right.
So that kind of puts a fire in you too.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, with a lot of older people and, you know, that's what they have, you know, they're like, they look down on younger people, which I just can't take that. I never take that from anybody, you know. So I'm very logical and reasonable. And if it's reasonable to me, then I'm like, okay, you know, I take your criticism. But if it's unreasonable and unlogical, right?
I understand that too, because when I first came out here, there's, you know, in Korea, there's like that 선배 후배.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right, and they're only like a year apart, and then it's like, why do they do that, right? You're just like literally friends, right? So it took a long time for me to understand that.
I mean, you know, Korea, they count days, you know.
Right. But then when you understand it, there's some good parts of that too.
For sure, yeah.
There's definitely negative parts to that too, but I think there are some good parts into it. And so once you understand it, you know how to navigate through it at least, right? What about like culture shocks? Was there any culture shocks for you?
A lot. You know, even though I'm Korean Canadian, the one thing that I've noticed in Korea was the level of dependency. So a lot of, it's not just kids, it's people too. They depend a lot on their parents, or, you know, especially on their parents, right? Which I think it's a big problem, because they have to know, I'm not saying like all of them are like that, but most of people are like that I've met in my life. They don't know how to figure things out on their own, where things are very logical, but they don't know how to do it. And I think because there's lack of independency.
Because it's such a hierarchy system too. Like in the school, in your workplace, it's very hierarchy, right? So even if you have an opinion, most cases people don't express those opinions, right? Yeah, when I used to work at a company, that used to drive me nuts, because it's like, why aren't you like saying something?
Right.
And everyone's just like, you hear crickets when they ask for opinions or something. But yeah, that's a culture shock. And then also like kids staying up so late in Korea too. That was kind of like...
True, yes.
Like in Canada, what time do kids go to sleep in Canada?
They go to sleep around 8 o'clock, but here it's very normal to go to bed around 11 or 12.
Even like elementary students go around like 10. What time do you let your kids go to sleep?
Ooh, I don't want to talk about that.
I guess, have you had a chance to like do a lot of traveling in Korea too?
No, I really haven't, because I was working and I was in the middle of getting married and, you know, starting my own family. And then after I had my kid, it was about opening cliff. So I never really had a personal time.
Great mom. I guess if you had a choice to raise your kids like in Canada or in America or in Korea, what country do you prefer raising kids in?
Definitely Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because like if I had to choose between raising my kids in Korea compared to America, I would choose Korea.
Why is that?
I think in America, they're exposed to a lot of negative things. There's a lot of positive aspects to it, but then in Korea, it's just much more safer. Maybe up to a certain age, like maybe when they get to a certain age, like going to America and kind of just learning from over there is good. But ultimately, I want them to study in Korea.
The thing that I've noticed about a lot of Korean students is, the number one thing that I don't like about Korea is how they can't speak their minds. You know, they have to hold everything. That's something that I can't change. Even I tell my students, because that actually comes from parenting. You know, when you're at home and then respecting your children, what they have to say, you know, I think that's very cultural based, and that is something that I can't absolutely change. So it doesn't matter how much I try to change students here, here, that's not gonna change. So.
But then maybe if it was Canada, I would want them to learn in Canada because I think Canada is a little bit better than.
Canada is safe. I don't know about things now, but they were safe.
And everyone that I meet from Canada, they're so nice.
Oh, they are?
Right.
Oh.
Most cases.
Okay, good, because I'm from Canada. Have you met people from Vancouver?
Yeah, of course. I've met people from Vancouver.
People are mean. I'm kidding.
Why?
They're city people.
Thank you, Vanessa, for taking the time. I know that you have a very busy schedule today. So
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time and just sharing your experience. And hopefully, if there's someone that's thinking about opening up a hagwon, this program was helpful. And we'll be back with more videos. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.